All right, Sandra, thank you for joining me today. We just started working together, and just to give people, something to maybe look forward to, or just a further explanation of where you were at and what working together has been like so far, would you mind sharing what life was like before we started working together? Kind of give us a picture of where you were at, what life was like, and then what made you decide to reach out and say yes to working together.
Well, really, really quickly, because we've all kind of been down the same similar paths, but I was married for 40 years to a narcissist, although I didn't realize that until later. But it was an up and down marriage. And then I finally decided that after a terribly abusive situation in 2009, I really started to feel like I wanted to move. I wanted to fix the marriage to begin with. Then, he went for counseling, we went for counseling, and what just wasn't working. I finally left in 2016. I was gone for 14 months. I then came back to his promises of everything being better, going to counseling, what have you. And when I returned back, it was a very bad situation. It got much, much worse. So I finally left a year ago in June. And so going through the process of getting a divorce, and I was very prepared. It still hurt. I missed him, or the person I thought he was. But still, and doing the work, going to counselings sorry, you can hear my little dog in the background. I was getting counseling from the people at the shelter, the ladies at the shelter. I was also getting other personal counseling through a lady that actually started doing our marriage counseling, surprisingly, and then she refused to work with my ex, but she wanted to continue to work with me. So I had those two sources, and it was great. It was very supportive, and they shared a lot of information, and that's where I learned a lot about narcissism and what have you. But I got to a point where I just was stuck, and it was like a wall, and I wanted to climb over that wall, and I just couldn't get over it. Again, the support I was getting was great, but I was learning a lot about what the narcissist was and what narcissists do, and I had already lived that, and I'm not saying I was an expert in it, but I knew enough about it that I wanted to get away from it, and I wanted to focus more on me and how I was going to heal me. Yeah. And I wasn't getting the right resources or skills or what it may have been. I don't know. So then that's how I connected with you. But up until this point, I would have triggers, a lot of triggers, a lot of why. I could not get past that why. So those were the two major issues I'd say three. I was very reactionary, whether it was anger or sadness. I was very reactionary. I had triggers that would upset me, that would just come on suddenly. And the why, those were the three things that really I couldn't get past. So that's how we connected.
And then we had our RTT session. I take everyone through a 6-week journey, and I believe we're week 2, and we had already had our coaching call, and you shared so much with me from even just that first session, the transformation change that was beginning to take place already, that subsided some of those triggers and those reactionary responses that you just shared about. So take us through what it's been like for you so far, because we're not fully through the program yet, but you've already experienced so much transformation and change. So share with us what that's been like.
Well, it's as I shared with you, Sarah, that it wasn't like the big aha moment that I woke up the next morning and I was a different person or anything. It was just a very warm, I call it like my cup of hot chocolate. And the thing is that things would come up, and it wasn't until after that I would look back and go, wow, like, I didn't get upset about that. I stayed calm. I was able to deal with the feelings that were coming towards me. It it was kind of mind-blowing, I will admit, like the first time, but more because normally I'd be like, oh my goodness, and just very reactionary and very upset and not being able to deal with it until much later. This was just very calm. And yes, I recognized that I was angry. I definitely recognized I was angry. There was an incident with my ex coming to get a truck, and he was doing his normal, just trying to cause a lot of problems. And I just was able to deal with it calmly. I was angry, I was annoyed, but I was able to put that in perspective. And I was able to just say, well, you know what? He hasn't changed. I shouldn't have expected anything different. Why would I expect anything different? And before I knew it, it was over and done. And yeah, it took a couple of days and what have you, but I was just calm about it. The triggers, I was finding I was still being triggered. I had a trigger on the weekend, but again, it was just more of a recognition, as opposed to my heart starting to pump and almost like anxiety. This time it was, oh, okay, I didn't get that anxiety, but I got a feeling, and then I was like, okay, that's why. This is why this is happening. Okay. And what are we going to do about that? And so I do a lot of talking to myself, but
Yeah, which is phenomenal.
yes. And the one key thing that I really found was that there's a lot of ups and downs going through the divorce and dealing with a narcissist in general. And I had a bad day, and it wasn't a bad day. It ended up not being a bad day. But before I would have to question that, why am I having a bad day? Why am I letting him do this to me? Why? And instead, I just was like, okay, you don't have to explain why you're feeling upset or having a bad day to anyone, including yourself. I was like, I don't care why you're having a bad day. You're just having a bad day. What are we going to do about it? So I just decided, I think I'm just going to lay down and just relax for a bit. Well, 30 minutes later, I was up and it was gone. It had passed. And that whole idea of just giving myself permission to feel crappy. I'm trying not to use swear words. To
No,
just
it's
feel,
okay. I think
just,
many of us who've been through this have heard all of them.
yeah, I was just feeling like shit. And I was just like, I didn't have to give myself permission on why I felt that way. It was just the way it was. And I was on with my day and it was gone. It was past. As far as the session of dealing with things that have happened in my past, I think that that's been probably the most impact on my life, because the fact is that I know why. I know why now I went into a marriage. I know why I put up with what I did. I know why. And now I'm not making excuses. I'm not blaming my upbringing, how I was raised. There's no fault. It's just what it was. It just is. And so now I know why, and I've just put those things in a box, what I call them, in a box on the shelf. I know they're there. I can see them. I can open that box if I want to, and I can look at them. But I don't have to anymore. I don't need to. They're there. That's what happened. This is why my life went down the path that it did. And so I've just gone on. And I have found that the biggest impact on me. So.
Amazing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what I was going to ask. It's how are things different for you now? But you just beautifully explained all of that. And many of us who've gone through this, so just the ruminating thoughts of, what did I do wrong? Why me? Like, why they said they would change. I thought we could, because it's really difficult to see this path that your life is on and to think it's not going the right direction or the way that I wanted, or there's nothing I can do about it to stop it. So it's very much a feeling of feeling overwhelmed, helpless, anxious,
Mm-hmm.
just this And so, yeah, like you said, taking the focus off the narcissist and putting it on yourself and really going within, the work that we do together, as you can attest to, really takes a look at within yourself, listening to your body, feeling those feelings instead of avoiding feeling those feelings, almost like they're in that box, but the box is like shaking, like there's a Tasmanian devil, like we're ready to get out. And it's like, no, I don't want to open the lid. I don't want to go there. I don't know.
Yeah.
And now just open the lid and be like, meh, close the lid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I'm not afraid to open the lid. I can open the lid and look in there and go, yep, it's still in there, and just move on. And the exercises too, the week 1 exercises were great. Like, and one exercise allowed me to morph it to suit me, even though, again, nobody told me I could do that. I just did. I gave myself permission, and it really opened things up even more for me because I was able to apply it to myself and how it would benefit me the most. And I started exactly how you had laid it out for me, and then just expanded on it. And I've even shared that exercise with girlfriends, and because I think it's I don't know if you want me to share it, but it's just such an important thing that I think every woman actually should do, no matter where they are in this journey. They may be right at the beginning, and you know, I think it would have been interesting to have that exercise right at the beginning when I was going through this, and then just along the way, just read those notes and see if I would want to add something more, tell myself more. And I think I would. I think it would have been really interesting to read it when I first started this journey and things looked so dark. And now that, you know, I'm in my mind, I'm entering the end. I'm now at the end of the path, I believe. And it would be interesting to see now, even let's say 5 years from now, reading that. It's going to be really interesting.
yeah, and it very much is a journey about within yourself. And our first connection or session that we have is our first rapid transformational therapy session that kind of opens that box and gets you to see it wasn't those experiences that you had. It was the beliefs that you developed about yourself because of those experiences. And now, like you said, they're still there, and there's no reason to be afraid anymore. It's just an ability to feel your feelings until they no longer need to be felt, which is exactly what I share with people and exactly what you just described. You know, I feel angry. I feel overwhelmed. I'm in it listening to my body. That's part of it. You know, part of the exercise and the journey that we go on is becoming aware instead of just being in the state of confusion and frustration because I don't know why. What I'm supposed to do with this, and just really, like I say, getting clear and free from all that.
And sometimes, you know, when I thought I was going to have a bad day, sometimes it's not clear. I really couldn't figure out exactly. There's always something going on that you can say, well, maybe it's this. It was so freeing to just allow myself to feel those feelings and not have to explain to anyone, including myself, why, or even know why. It was muddy. It was not clear. It wasn't a clear glass of water, and I couldn't see through it, but it didn't matter that I couldn't see through it. I was still able to acknowledge that I was just not feeling good about what was going on. And I just let myself feel those feelings. And once I felt those feelings, I was able to let them go and move on with my day and have a good day. And the rest of my day was a good day.
Yeah,
So
perfect. That's amazing. Yeah, because so many of us in that one moment, like you described, you get stuck there, and the whole day is ruined, and then the next day is ruined, and then the next day, you know, because it continues to have that domino effect. So thank you so much for sharing, Sandra. We are going to reconnect again further on in your journey, but thank you so much for sharing the beginning of this. And it will be really cool to look back on all this and see how much more changes as we continue.
yeah, no,
Just letting people know this available.
yeah, I encourage other ladies to meet with you and talk with you and see if this would fit where they are right now, because we're all in different spots along our journey. And of course, I have been no contact, which I have been able to do because I have no young children. We're not raising children together. And that has been a very key thing for me, is no contact. And that means absolutely no contact. I don't creep him or anything like that on social media. That is definitely the key, for sure.
I believe so too, but there's myself and a lot of other women who do have children together. What would you say, like, about this experience and going on the journey that you and I take together, that I guide you? And it is about you doing the work, and you've been very, very good about that, because you're worth it. But what would you say if people have children and they still are like, is this right for me if I have kids? Like,
I think very much. I think it actually would be more valuable to women that must have some kind of contact just due to children, because I can just imagine it must be so frustrating. And this way, you're not going to be able to stop them and their behavior, but what you can do is understand your behavior, why you're reacting the way you are reacting, and or just I don't know, this sense of calm, just a sense of softness that comes over you. That so they may say something, they may give you a look, they may try to
they will. I
you.
still experience that. Yep.
They'll try to poke the bear. And the thing is that if you don't react, then it's not going to affect you, and they're not going to stop. I know that they're not going to stop. So I think the main thing I would say is that it's going to give you the ability to not be reactionary towards them, which we all know is what they're looking for. And if you can stop being reactionary towards them when you're with them, sure, get in the car, and you can be thinking all you want and saying in your mind, oh, let's hope the children aren't there. You drop the children off, you said something, you can get in your car and you can call them every name in the book and what have you. But when you're with that person, you're not reacting in front of them, so they're not getting what they want. And so to me,
this source of supply that we all know is the one thing, it's air for them. It allows them to live and breathe. Yeah.
And like I say, I don't think it's, as long as you're not reacting to them, you're not reactionary with them, but to acknowledge that what they did really did piss you off, and it was uncalled for, and they were rude, and they were lying, and you can say all those things when you get into your car or away from them, but when you're in front of them, you're not going to react, I believe. But
that's my experience now, because I still unfortunately have to have contact, and it's very much that. It's just just okay, yeah. And very much I'll get home and just and then it's like, you know what, not even worth it, moving on, and then just go about my day. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing that, because everyone, like you said, everyone is at a different place. Some people do have kids with them, some don't, but doing the inner work to heal is tremendously beneficial in your own life, because they're all living theirs the way they always have, and then you're left kind of feeling like you just get ran over on the side of the road. And so picking yourself back up and really doing this inner work. So thank you so much for sharing the experience thus far, and I'm excited to come back in a couple of weeks and share even more.
So am I. I may see where this is going to take me, for sure.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, and we'll meet again soon.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah.